Hey you. Yes, you. Why would it be someone other than you? So you want to build a machine specifically to run Windows XP, but you also want it to be a little more authentic to XP's time period. You take a look at a nice mid-2000s GPU online, see the prices of each listing and think, fuck off, I'm not gonna pay this much for this junk. But no worries, because there is an alternative. Stuff that is considered trash by workplaces may be considered treasure to you. The Quadro and FireGL series are most of the time just rebrands of GeForce and Radeon cards, which means that most of the time they will be just as good for retro gaming, but will be more readily available at cheaper prices. My example of this is the ATI FireGL V7200. Look at it. Ain't she a beauty? I found this beast at the flea market last year for just €2, and it came with a VGA cable. Even though the card doesn't have a VGA port, but adapters exist I guess. The V7200 was released on October 1st, 2005. It is based on the R520 graphics core, which was used in the Radeon X1800 and X1900 series. This card specifically features 16 pixel shaders, 8 vertex shaders, 16 TMUs, 16 ROPs, a core clock of 600 MHz, and memory of 650 MHz. One of the unfortunate drawbacks with this card is it only has 256 MB of GDDR3 memory, which may be limiting in more graphically intensive games at higher resolutions. The V7200 is a DirectX 9 card featuring ShareMar 3.0 support. It has a TDP of around 106 watts, from what I know, and requires a 6-pin PCIe power connector. Long story short, this is a Radeon X1800 XT with half the VRAM and slightly lower memory clock. But what makes the FireGL so different from the Radeon? Well, apparently not much, except so-called hardware and software tweaks to favor workstation performance. Nevertheless, its similarities with the X1800 should still make it viable as a nice Windows XP era gaming card. The test system we're using today has an Intel Core 2 Duo E7500 that's been overclocked to 3.5 GHz, 4 GB of DDR2 800 MHz RAM, and of course, Windows XP Service Pack 3. The driver being used is version 8.583 of the FireGL suite, released in 2009. They work about as well as the regular Catalyst drivers on Radeon. No problems to speak of in my experience. In 3D Mark 2001 SE, we achieved a pretty massive score of 40,394. That's thanks in part to our overclocked Core 2 Duo. In 03 we got 18,561, and in 05 9,301. So far, a very good showing. Now onto the games, and here we're starting off real strong with Unreal Tournament 2004, which was pretty much flawless. No matter the map I played in, settings cranked up, it was super smooth. Amazing. Half-Life 2 had a few occasional stutters in the gameplay, but otherwise, it was very playable. You could probably use the newer Steam version and it'll still run fine. Wait, how did I die there? Far Cry was another game that ran flawlessly. I probably wouldn't max it out at this resolution, but it isn't a big deal as this game still looks pretty nice. Raising up the intensity level a bit, we have GTA San Andreas. This was good, even in busy scenarios. This is a lot better than what you've originally played this game on as a kid. Need for Speed Most Wanted is quite a bit demanding than you may realize when raising the settings further. But at high settings, the V7200 did its job. Not insanely high frame rates as what we've seen with UT, but this game is still a lot of fun to play on this setup. With Fear, I ran the included benchmark, where we saw pretty good averages with slightly disappointing lows. And yeah, playing the beginning of the game, it wasn't a very smooth experience, despite having soft shadows turned off. Turning the resolution down to 1024 by 768 does help. Not as much as I would have liked, but it does help. This game is fairly punishing on period accurate hardware, so a slightly newer GPU would be recommended. But you may be asking, Fake Tech, how do newer games run on this card? To which I respond, yeah, I'm curious as well. So here is Crisis. Before opening the game, I received a warning telling me that the FireGL isn't supported. But then the game worked fine. 720p medium was a bit too much for this card, but at low settings it runs really good actually. Shame it doesn't look as good as with medium, but it's so smooth. Race driver grid is kinda similar. Like in a pinch, 720p medium is playable. Not really though. But turning the settings down to the lowest results in a very welcome improvement. And finally, we have Skyrim. I lowered pretty much everything, including the texture quality to help out the limited 256 MB of VRAM. 720p wasn't horrible, but I would say 480p is more fitting for this old boy. Yeah, I know windowed mode isn't exactly very ideal, but
it is what it is. It is what it is.
I didn't want to test the FireGL's workstation performance as, for one, I don't have much in terms of comparison, and secondly, I doubt anyone would care about that. Temperature-wise, the card can get fairly toasty, although that is with a fairly low fan curve. But anyways, overall, I enjoyed my time with the FireGL V7200. Pretty much all games before its release are going to run beautifully, and in pairing with something like an Athlon 64, you can make a very nice, authentic Windows XP gaming machine. However, if you want to run your old favorites at even higher resolutions, maxed out settings, balls to the walls, anti-aliasing, maybe even some graphical mods, you may want to look for something else. Still, for the €2 that I paid, this card was pretty fun to check out. And now let's go back to shitty hardware. Why? If you enjoyed this kind of content, liking and subscribing would be appreciated, as well as supporting me on Patreon. Thanks for watching.